Welcome to this LN training session. My name is Doug Stroud, and I will be your logistics trainer for today. In previous training sessions, I've done things like creating this sales order. Okay, and one of the things I want to do while I'm here is I'm going to capture the sales order number because of what we're going to do today. So, like I said in the earlier sessions, I created the sales order. Then we ran planning, and via the planning, I took the planned PO and converted it to an actual PO. Then I went into another session and approved and printed the PO. And now in the last session, what I did is I received the material from the PO and put it away. So today what I want to do is actually ship this sales order. So what we're going to do, and actually before I start again, I want to go back and reemphasize a session I did in an earlier presentation also, the Warehouse Manager Dashboard. In here, I can filter on certain things. And today I want to show you, I can filter on sales orders. And then I can actually filter on my sales order. And when I select my sales order, you will notice that the only thing it updated up in this section here was the outbound line status overview. And if I click that, and then I open that record, you will note that for my sales order, these are the activities that I have to go through. So generating the outbound advice, which is like doing a hard allocation of the inventory. Releasing the outbound advice, and then generating a picking list. I utilize the picking list as the document to go forward and have them pick the goods, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. I also want you to notice that some of the steps are automated, so that when one step is done, the next step automatically executes. And technically, I could do all of these steps from here, but the issue with that is you're only going to do this one record. If you had a sales order with multiple lines on it, this would only do one line. So rather than do that, what I want to do today is I'm going to go back and I'm going to do it like the shipping clerk would do it in the warehouse. And his first procedural step would be to do generate outbound advice. In the generate outbound advice, the very first field you see here is run. And this is really important when you're doing things like sales orders, particularly if you want to ship an order complete or do different things. Today I'm going to let the system assign the run number so that you can see how that works. And then the next fields I want to talk about is this delivery date. Well, you notice it defaulted to today's date and time. I'm going to move it way out, like 100 days. And I just do that by putting a plus 100 in there and hitting tab. And if I put a 0 in the time, it sets it at midnight. Okay, and then on the second session, the order selection screen, I want to change the origin from sales to sales. Because remember, I'm only going to do one sales order. Then I'm going to tab down and I'm going to paste my order number in so that it now is going to only do my sales order. On the other tabs, there's things like if I'm doing lots of different orders, I can prioritize how I would want them shipped. Like if I want them to all be based on the order plan delivery date, and then it's going to go through in this sequence looking at information. And then on the last tab, I can tell it what I want to print. If I'm running this manually, I always want to make sure I get the shortage report. The advice will tell you that it's hard allocated, and that's good, so we'll take that. And then printing it to the defined device, if I've got a defined device for it, it will print to it. And I'm going to unselect that, and I'm going to click Advise. Notice I get a pop-up message saying the run number does not exist, create it now. And I'm going to say yes. Okay? And you'll notice it came up with the device. And so we're going to do our D for display on our device. Okay, you'll notice that I got two reports. I got a pick list and an outbound advice. Again, a lot of people say, well, why don't you use the outbound advice as the picking document? And for me, it's just that I like the picking document because it allows me to break it out based on how the orders are and different things like that. So Here's the outbound advice. And if I'm running an automated process, I normally don't print the outbound advice. I just print my pick list. So here's my outbound advice. And then here's my pick list. And here it tells you where it's coming from, the inventory location it's coming from, and where it's going. And the way LN works, you would move the inventory when you pick it from the actual storage location in the warehouse to the staging location, which is technically your dock. The other thing I want to do is I'm going to capture this run number here because we'll need it in a few minutes. And we'll close the screen, and you'll notice the system actually did assign the run number here. And notice it's an alpha O, a 4-digit year, 2-digit month, 2-digit day, and a sequence number of what run was done on that particular day. So this is sequence 2. I'm going to close that. Now, remember, because I had the pick list that I gave to the warehouse person to go pick the goods, he's now picked the goods and come back and wants to report the picking. So what I'm going to do is come here. I'm going to click the find button or search. I'm going to paste in my run number, and then I'm going to delete out the remaining fields down through here, because this is to find the first record that begins with or starts with or is greater than what I put in here, unless I click the exact match. And I'm not doing that. So I say, okay, here is my, excuse me, picking list. So remember, on the pick list, it told me to go to this location and pick 10. I'm saying I'm doing that. Okay, I could make any changes I needed to here, like if I got it from a different location in different quantities. I'm going to pick the mission. And the reason I do that, excuse me, is if I could pick the run number, but if you pick the run number, the problem with that is that there could be multiple pick lists for that run number because there's different missions. And the mission here is very key. So I always do pick mission. When I do the pick mission, you'll notice that it created me a shipment ID here. Okay? Now, so now I've told the system I've picked the goods, i.e. I've moved the goods from my main stockroom warehouse to the shipping dock. So I'm going to close it, and I'm going to open shipments. Now, when I open shipments, one of the things I can do really easily is using the dynamic filter. I can filter for records that are open. That means that shipments are open. And you'll notice in my case, I only have one shipment open. And so now what I can do is look at that. I could filter on it. I have filtered on here. I could filter on other things like, the business partner, etc. So what I want to do is I want to open this record and explain a few things here. Actually, I want to go back. I want to select the record. First thing I want to do is go to loads. In the loads, I could change the carrier. In other words, it's set up to be delivered by FedEx second day. I could change it to be FedEx Express Save. I could also put in tracking information. And there's two different ways to do this. You could do this now, or if I go back, up here you'll notice again, as I've talked on numerous occasions where I've used the personalized toolbar to add personalized buttons or icons, there's a freeze. A freeze firms up the shipment, but it doesn't lock it out. So if I do a freeze, I could go back and update things like the tracking information. Okay, but if I go in and I were to do a freeze confirm, that's confirming that the shipment has left the dock, then I can't do any changes. So you have to think about how you're going to update your load information. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my loads. I'm going to go in and put in a tracking number, DS-12345. Okay, now I'm going to do a save and exit. And with the record still selected, I'm going to confirm my shipment. Now remember, when I freeze confirm the shipment, that's going to take the inventory out of all of our books and say it's now been shipped. So I get a freeze confirm. I click continue. I'm putting in a device for the exceptions. You'll notice down here it tells me what the report is, and it's going to do for exceptions. And because of the way I have the system set up, two other things happen. The bill of lading will automatically print and the packing slip. So, but first let's click an OK here, close the freeze, confirm. The bill of lading is just a generic layout right now. We haven't made any modifications to it, so this is standard layout. But what I do want to show you is that we've done a personalization on the packing slip. So I open it in my Adobe, and you'll notice that we've actually barcoded, put a barcode in here with this special LN information info reporting services report, where you could actually come in and go in and barcode like the item, the line, whatever, and it would be on the system. This does conclude today's training session. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close my packing slip. We're back at the shipments. You'll notice now that because I filtered on open, there's no shipment records here, but the statuses are open. I could do frozen if I've frozen it, you know, and again, remember confirmed. Actually, let's blank it out. If you look here, they're all confirmed. That means they've been shipped and the inventory has left our dock and actually been relieved from our inventory. So like I say, this does conclude the training for this session. I hope you've enjoyed it. Goodbye.